my gosh, James made that.
So we're here pitchside with Dillon Barnes, who is the Academy Director and coach behind the A95 Player Development Program. They're doing some incredible work in shaping the next generation of talent, and I go some way back with Dillon, but it's great to be able to finally speak in this capacity. Matchday -1, a preparation session for the MK Dons under-18 game tomorrow. On the drills that you done this morning, what was the aim behind Coach Lorenzo's session?
I think the main aspect of today was just setting the boys up for tomorrow, so making sure that their game plan is to a T. So we've changed our formation in the last week or so just to firstly aid the players we have. So the players we've got currently playing in tomorrow's game, the formation we're playing tomorrow kind of benefits them in that aspect of it. And secondly, it kind of matches what the team are playing against. So we're just trying to make sure we can find triggers and you know, places where we can try and defeat tomorrow's team, which we hope will be successful, really.
And you've worked with a lot of young players across professional level and non-league academies. And now obviously you're in this pathway partnership with MK Dons. What is one early sign that you notice in a player when they're not quite going to take that next step in their development?
I think the major thing, especially at this age group where they've not been signed and you know they're in a position where they are looking for a first-year scholar or you know trying to sign for a first team, is just their attitude in terms of how they react to football. So a lot of them will have a chip on their shoulder. So if they have been released, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder to try and prove people wrong. Some of them haven't been in the game because of that same situation. So a lot of attitude will keep them out of the game as well, because you know coaches speak, clubs speak, and if you're like an under 14 player that's been released from a club because of attitude, and you're trying to get into a club like under 15, 16, and coaches speak and stuff, I think that's the major focal point. And I think it's such an important part of any player's development, is just making sure they have the correct attitude throughout football, whether it's on or off the pitch, because the moment that you start to not take that part seriously, it's when managers will overlook you and you won't be giving them certain opportunities. I mean, there's players that are, you know, seasoned pros that kind of have that kind of stigma towards them, and you know there might be really, really good players. You look at someone like a Ravel Morrison, you know, he's had that stigma placed on him for the last 10 or so years, and he's a great footballer, but because of that attitude, he's not given the same opportunities. And I think players at, you know, 15, 16, 17 years old need to understand that's such an important part. And you know, there's going to be coaches which they will get along with, they'll agree with, they won't agree with, but I think the main point of football is that a lot of coaches are here to help develop the player, and I think when players start to understand that at a young age, they're not here to out them and make them feel a certain type of way. They're here to actually help develop them and push someone as far as they can. You know, we're here today at Wembley, which are a step 6 club, and we've got a few players playing for the first team, but we know we can push the boys on higher. And the boys know that as well. So I think it's about them understanding what level they're at, taking the opportunities that are given to them, and kind of trying to push themselves as much as they can, because you can have a successful career in non-league. You can obviously have a really good career in professional football as well. So yeah, I think that's the most important part, which players don't really understand. They need to really nail to the T in that department.
So most of the boys that you have kind of on that topic are about 16, 17, some of them plus. But on the 16, 17-year-olds, what in that case then separates the ones that have quote unquote a poor attitude and the ones that are like standout talents? What are some of the characteristics that separate the two?
I think the main thing, as I mentioned earlier, is just the attitude towards football. So making sure things like punctuality is such an important thing in football. So if a meet-up's at a certain time, you're there 10 minutes beforehand. Your attitude towards training, coaches, I mean, you know, you can go training, not everything's going to go your way. And that's just life, you know, not everything's going to go away your life. So it's about making sure that when it's not going your way, how are you reacting to them situations? Because, you know, someone who's playing at, you know, a first year, second year scholar, not everything's going to go their way, but when it's not going their way, how do they react to them sort of situations to, benefit themselves and the team most importantly? And then in terms from a technical perspective, I think players that are playing at, Cat 1 to Cat 4 academy level to players that are at, a college program like what we have, for example, I think the main thing, the biggest thing is just how they deliver the basics. So like the detail in the passing, their movement, their positioning, the decision making, all of them sort of things are so important. And it's for players to understand that them basic details will get you so much further than, doing 100 step overs and taking on 100 players, because that's only going to get you so far in a team game. And I think as well, fitness. So things like how fit you can be, especially in this modern game where there's a lot of running, and a lot of things are tracked by stats now. So how quick can you run? How far can you run? What is your recovery time like? So in and out of possession, can you aggressively get the ball back and things like that? And that's what takes you from, being a high-end grassroots player to being, an academy player, first team player at a club as well.
So within that, there are some daily habits like what you do when you finish your training, extras, sleep time, and you've obviously got like a lot of technology with like the Whoop watch as well that can track all that type of stuff. So all that type of stuff falls into that. In terms of discipline and consistency, two things that obviously you talk about a lot. What do those look like on a day-to-day basis with the best players that you've worked with? So in terms of the ones that you've seen, what does that look like?
In terms of, some of the best players we've worked with, I think you can see it from a mile away of how well their career is going to go, whether it be a non-league or professional game, just by the things they do on a day-to-day basis. So again, it comes back to the times they arrive at training, the information they retain from the coaches, how well they deliver themselves at training. So like I said earlier, not everything's going to go 100% their way, but it's about when they're there, are they pushing themselves to the maximum they can do? And then it comes down to, again, the extras they're doing. And we're a big advocate of making sure the players are doing their extras. So they're very lucky in this sense that they get to train 5 days a week, play matches once a week, sometimes twice, depending on how many minutes they've got. And if they have, the luxury of also playing non-league football, again, at a club like Wembley or any of our other non-league partners, then they're having a lot of football, a lot of minutes, which they're here for 2 years, but them 2 years are going to go so quickly. So we do say to them when they're not here, make sure you're doing your extras, your runs, going to the gym. We've set them out gym plans, diet plans to make sure they're following. And that's another thing as well. I mean, Wembley High Street, which is just down the road from here, there's about 10 chicken shops down the road. And from a boy that's 16, 17, 18 years old, that's such like a lure to like, okay, quick fix for lunch. But they might spend, we've been for pre-season now for the last 2 weeks. They might do an hour and a half, fitness stuff, really working on that part of their game. And then you might see one of them at the chicken shop. And it's like, you've done all that work.
Counterproductive.
Exactly, it's counterproductive what you've just worked on. And you can see it in some of our stuff. So last week, Friday, we done an in-house 11v11 for 120 minutes flat out. No half-time, nothing. And you can see some of the players, obviously we rotated players around because of the volume of players we got here, but you can see like who is fit enough and who isn't. And it is, we are already in our 3rd week in our pre-season, but you can tell the ones that are doing the extras and stuff like that. And I think them sort of little basics there is what takes a player from being a high-level grassroots player to, playing National League, League Two, them kind of levels, which, a lot of these players are trying to aspire to be and play for.
Perfect. And you've been running the A95 pathway within different capacities for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Nearly 10, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
nearly 10, yeah.
What is the vision behind it, and in terms of like player development, and what would you define as a successful outcome for a player here?
Yeah, so I mean, the driving force behind this program, from my own personal perspective, is that I actually went to a program similar to this when I was younger. So I went to a Fulham program near where I live when I was 16, 17, 18, and obviously being attached to a pro club, you'd expect it to be really good. But when I was there for a year and a half, and I experienced a lot of things that were run really poorly. Some of it was done really good, and some of it was run really poorly. Our academy manager at the time is actually now the academy manager at Fulham's academy, so he's the under-18s manager. He's had a great career in terms of a coaching perspective, but the program itself wasn't great. So I always wanted to make sure that even when I did set up something similar to that we had things in place to cater for everyone. So one thing that's really good with us is that we've got about 70, 80 players on our program. across the ages of 16, 17 and 18 and across different abilities, and it's about, the ones that are really excelling and really pushing so far, how we can push them, and the ones that aren't, what pathways have we got for them? So we don't just have one pathway. Obviously, our main pathway is through MK Dons, and they're a fantastic club. They've got some really great people down there, and our pathway with MK Dons is, making sure that we can try and push as many of our players into their academy and first team, because from both parties, that's a great success. And then from players that are not quite at that level yet, we've got non-league partners. We're at Wembley now, they're one of our non-league partners. We've got a few others as well across steps 2 down to step 7. So depending on what level you're at, we've always got pathways for you to push in and play men's football, because at this age, if you're not in academy football, the next best thing is playing men's football. And with us having them, them contacts and stuff and having them pathways, it's so important for the boys to be getting that exposure, getting them minutes, because like I said earlier, you're only here for 2 years, and if you're 18 years old and you've played 150 non-league games, that goes so much distance. Exactly. And it's such an important thing. So for me, it's about making sure the boys have loads of different pathways. Obviously, the lucrative one that everyone wants to play for is MK Dons, but we have to be realistic with everyone, and we do set them expectations which they are fully aware of. Some of them obviously want to, exceed them expectations, which is great. That's a good characteristic thing for them to have. But some of them, okay, let's work where we're at now. Can we go and play some non-league football, get some minutes in and go from there, really?